Welcome back, gang, to another episode of Victoire for Kids, the monthly St. Jude Children's Hospital fundraiser. Find the link in the description of the video and be sure to subscribe, like, and share our videos. It helps us spread these pieces so much further. My guests this month include my partner in justice from the Power and Glory podcast, Paul Roma, along with Rob Van Dam and Katie Forbes, and pretty Peter Avalon. Enjoy. Victoire. Victoire gives a special thanks to the EWF and Mr. Jesse Hernandez, as well as SoCal Wrestling TV. Find the app for free on Roku. High quality and organic foods and supplements. Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market. Family owned and operated since 1972. Tattoos are for life. Therefore, visit one of the most reputable companies in California, the Trusted Tattoo Company and Mobile Body Art Bus, 760-645-0485. Looking to train to be a professional wrestler? Near San Diego? Then look no further than Primal Pro Wrestling. Unleash your inner primal. 619-971-1445. Palm Springs, California, Indian Wells, California, Rancho Mirage, California. They're all considered a destination hotspot, a second home haven. With an exquisite record of negotiating the finest deals for clients, Lowell Folsom III and Associates always deliver. Contact Lowell today at 760-391-2504. And now, on with the show. Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Victoire for Kids. This is the St. Jude Children's fundraiser special. You can find the link in the description of the video. All proceeds go directly to St. Jude Children's Hospital, and we would encourage you, if you feel so inclined, to donate to this great cause. Today, I am joined by a smorgasbord of wrestling talent here. First, I'll begin with my partner in justice from the Power and Glory podcast, Paul Roma, former WWF, WCW superstar. Welcome, Paul.
Oh, hey, listen, this is a beautiful thing. It's a great cause. I hope everybody, reaches just a little bit. You don't have to go that deep into your pocket, but just reach in there. And I'm sure it's even the price of a coffee will be something. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Paul. And then we also have joining us WWE Hall of Famer, former WWE and ECW World Champion, RVD, Rob Van Dam, and then his beautiful wife from Impact Wrestling, Katie Forbes. Welcome to the two of you.
Thank you.
Right on. Happy today.
Yep. And then, of course, the man who made the librarian character famous. This is all about characters here today. Peter, you're never going to get away from that one with me.
Never.
That character, brother. From AEW and ROH, this is pretty Peter Avalon.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. I'm surrounded by stars. That's awesome.
Yeah, great. It's a great group of talent we have here today from all decades. So we're going to begin this by, so first of all, this episode is about characters and character development in pro wrestling. So we're going to begin with the first question, and we'll start with you, Paul, and we'll pose this to everybody. Is it equally as important to develop a great character in pro wrestling as it is in-ring work if you are to be a remembered talent in 30 years from now? Is character equally as important as in-ring work?
Well, yeah, I think for the most part, they go hand in hand. However, your character could be changed once you get into a different organization or the one that you just, started out with. They may want to change that character. And I think it's important to keep your ring ethics of what you do. Because I think that's important. The people are going to go with it. I mean, your character could change all the time, but they're going to know you, like our other two guests that are on. They're going to know them for the work that they do and how they wrestle. I think that's really the important thing.
Okay. All right, we'll throw it over to you, Rob and Katie. In your estimation, is the character equally as important as the in-ring work, or is one more important than the other?
You want to have a crack at it, baby?
Sure. I think they're both important. For me, character is my favorite thing because a lot of people are good in ring, but then they're like boring. So a lot of people like me as a wrestler because of my character work. And I like making people laugh and feel different emotions through that.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Rob?
I'm gonna go against the grain here. It's very important, but from my perspective, the way times have changed and the standard of work rate has come up so much, not so much anywhere. It used to be you could have a good gimmick and not be able to work a lick. And you could still get a push for a little while. All the boys would complain about working with you, but you used to be able to have a job. Ever since the Monday Night Wars, you got to be able to go, you got to be able to work.
Mhm.
And for some guys, that's going to be their only characters, whatever they build off of their moves, their matches, their style. So it's very important. But for me, I'm going to say not nearly as important as knowing how to work.
Okay, all right. And then finally, Peter, what do you say?
I agree with what Rob is saying, especially in today's climate of pro wrestling. The work is what will keep you around. And I think the character is what keeps you remembered.
Mhm.
Like if you have something that people can identify with and relate to, more so than the in-ring work and the moves and everything, and I think you have a better chance of sticking around and being remembered for a lot longer for sure.
Okay. All right. Very good. Next question I got for you. And again, we'll go back to Paul first. Give the audiences a few tips on how a wrestler in training may develop a good character.
Wow. Well, I think that I don't know if I'm the best wrestler to ask that question to. Um, let's just put it this way. Uh, as it was spoken to me by you know, Kurt, he said, just be yourself. And that was my character,
Yeah.
was myself. So Kurt Hennig, said that to me, and I ran with it as a heel, and it stuck. It was easy. It came natural.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's
Just go with yourself. Now,
well, yeah. I mean, for me, it worked. For others, it may not.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So now down to Rob and Katie. What are your thoughts on that? Any tips that you could give a pro wrestler in training to develop a great character?
So when I got into wrestling, I felt like my character had to be angry, because that was like what people around me, was their advice was, to like get more angry and like do like a tough girl persona. So that's what I thought just as a wrestler. Like if I wanted people to take me serious too as an athlete, like I'd have to like yell at the camera or get like hot like that. But then my real personality is like laid back, but also like fun and party girl. And I make the best out of any situation.
Mhm.
So when I met Rob, like he was like, you don't have to be angry. Like you could be yourself. And, like he said, yourself, but also like, like people say yourself, but then turned up. So, I think no matter like, yeah, like if you're country, you could have a country character. If you're a happy, really happy, fun person, you can have a fun character.
Mhm. Yeah. What about you? What do you say, Rob?
Yeah, I think just like they both said, it's best when it is a shade of yourself that you can like really put more into, and you can elaborate more than your normal self would. If you have a certain side of you that's very relatable in your own way. So that's about the trainers finding the best in you, bringing the best out of you, saying like, hey, you know, you you want to do all these power moves, but that's really not going to be your realm, because you're really quick and you do all these things too, and stick to that. Or it's a trainer will find the best, bring the best out of you, and hopefully tell you not to do stuff that you're weak at, and then that can lead to a character. Sometimes you could just be playing a straight up part that they need filled,
Yeah.
you know, and in which case you could be under a hood, a mask. And there's also some wrestlers that their character, if it is part of them, then I can't imagine where it would be. And those are guys that like really like to paint their face, and
Yeah.
whether they like to expose that inner demon in them or whatever.
Yeah.
I may not personally get it, but I know as an artist that they get it. Jeff Hardy's one of them.
Yeah.
You know, his fans love what he does with his face and stuff. I don't get his passion for that, but I know that he does. And so, you know, someone that would be training with him or help him along, I guess, would tell him when it's right to tap into that side.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. And you brought up that because I remember, Rob, we talked about the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, you can't. I mean, there's a, and of course, Paul, you know the Warrior. So I mean, yeah, I mean, what a character he was. Thinking about that. So Peter, what are your thoughts on this? A few tips for the audience to develop a great character.
I hope that anybody who is training, they have the trainers like Rob is saying that can kind of guide them and make them aware of how they are, who they are, and what they're doing. Um, and what Katie was saying, I resonate a lot with too, because early on when I was first training, I was trying to be a tough guy too, because that's kind of just like what you see. You kind of feel you're supposed to try to be a tough guy. Good Lord, I'm just not. I'm just not that. I've always just been kind of a goof and very aloof and funny. And so I think it comes down just to kind of self-awareness too. Like you got to be able to kind of be aware of who you are, what you are at that point in your life, and kind of guide that into a character, whether the character is just you turned up to 11, like a lot of people do, or it's something completely that's not like you and you're acting a role, a part. I grew up watching a lot of sketch comedy. I loved Mad TV. I loved Saturday Night Live. I loved all those different things. But the definite difference with that in pro wrestling is that every sketch on those shows, it's kind of like a sandbox thing. It's its own thing, and it has nothing to do with the next thing. Whereas in wrestling, a lot of the time, you do something here, it flops, it's going to affect your something else you're going to attempt to do. You know what I mean? A lot of that kind of has crossover. So it's just kind of being self-aware of what you're going to do, what you're going to try, how you're going to try it, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Now you brought up, now obviously, Peter, you played the role of librarian that was given to you by AEW.
Correct.
So this is I'm just adding this question to everybody today. So what do you do in a situation where you've got a great character on the independent circuit that you've developed, and now you come to the big time and they offer you a contract and they're going to say, scrap all that, we're going to shove you in this plumber gimmick. So Paul, what now? I got two things I want to ask. So does the youngster who's just got the contract, do they speak up and say, well, yeah, but can I give my opinion, my 2 cents, or do they just zip it and just play the role to the best of their ability? Paul.
Well, I mean, in my day, you zip it and you play the role. That's what they have in mind for you, and that's what you do. For the most part, between them and you, what they're doing, you can make it work.
Okay.
I mean, it would have to be really, really terrible. And I've seen some terrible things. And I've seen, guys get caught up in them. But this is what we consider the office, is what the office wanted. So that's what you do. So, I guess it's like Hollywood, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it is like Hollywood. Rob, Katie, would you agree with that? Would you just, if they gave you a gimmick that maybe you didn't feel comfortable with, would you voice your opinions, or would you try it for a while, then voice your opinions, or would you not voice anything at all and just do it?
Whenever I play somebody that's other than who I want to be played, then I like try to take in what they want, what their vision is, but then also put my Katie Forbes spin on it. So I was like, they must like something about Katie Forbes to think that I'm going to be the person to do it. So like if they wanted me to be like a ghost, then I might be like a dancing, twerking ghost.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, so it really depends on where you're at in the stage of your career. The first couple of years that I was wrestling, my trainers, the Sheik and Sabu, said it doesn't matter what they call you, it doesn't matter who wins or whatever, just try and get as much ring time as you can because you need experience. And so I went through so many different names like my first several years, and it didn't matter to me. I was a international patriot, I was a flying tiger, I was a Polish prince, I was Rod Zat, Robbie Z, bunch of different um, plays off of my name. And in addition to that, like I really didn't even pay attention because I knew that I was learning and that I was at that stage where I didn't want to be remembered for the way that I was right then. But you know, a little bit later, I kind of felt established, and then I, you know, even early, even too early, I felt established. When I went to WCW in '93, Bill Watts didn't want to use my name, Rob Van Dam, and we changed it to Robbie V, which is just another play on it. But at the time, I think I'd maybe been in like one magazine, and I had, you know, I've been wrestling like a little over a year under that name, and people were knowing me by that, and I felt like, no, man, this is really working. But then again, you know, when I went to WWE in 2001, I felt the same way. I thought they might change my personality or character, if you want to call it. They might invent my entire past because they were known for doing that. I didn't want that. There was no other place to wrestle on TV in America in 2001.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was pleased to see that they were keeping me and my history the same and adding on to it, actually adding depth to it. But there was a point early on where I wasn't comfortable with what they were doing in the script, you know, and I did tell them about it. I always told them about it, maybe too much, you know, because I kind of got a reputation with some people as not being easy to get along with or something to that effect, because I was already so opinionated and already so created. I didn't have as much moldability in my shape as somebody else might have. And one time Stephanie came to me and she said, you know, treat it like you're acting, you know, like you're just playing a part. And I said, okay, cool, but then call me Joe Blow, don't call me Rob Van Dam, because people have known me as Rob Van Dam at that point for, you know, I don't know how many years, but a lot of years, 12 years. And then, you know, when you have someone else in control of what you are saying and thinking and acting upon, then that can be challenging when you feel like you really are that character, when you are really known by that name, you know. Like I know him as Paul Roma, you know, and if Paul Roma isn't the real guy out there, and he's the guy that does everything that they write, then, you know, sometimes the talent and the owners of the intellectual property and personality can struggle with it.
Yeah. So you're
Well,
saying
you
that
know what? You know, I mean, in his defense, he was doing what was best for him and his character. And, you know, people, as he said, people take it the wrong way. I mean, he's looking out for his career and he's looking out for his character, right?
Yeah.
And he wants to bring it or keep it in the direction that it's going. But a lot of people take that the wrong way, as, you know, well, he has a bad attitude. No, it's not a bad attitude. He's just looking out for himself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if he doesn't look out for himself, who's going to look out for him?
Right.
And that's a perception that, you know, a lot of the wrestlers had. You know, well, they have a bad attitude. Well, maybe that's really not it. Maybe you should get the full story, or, you know, see what that guy is really all about. And I know anytime I've ever met Rob, he's been a gentleman to me. That's what I base characters off of, how I'm treated. You know what I'm saying? If they show me respect, I show them respect. If I show them respect first, I expect it back. And you know, a lot of these guys, they just didn't get that. A lot of this went to their head, and they thought they were bigger than the game, and that's when the problem starts.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, you know, in a short way of saying it is you're saying, Rob, base it on your tenure in a company. So if you're a well-established talent and you've made this, you know, and Paul, I don't know if you agree with me, you've made this character something that the world knows, but then all of a sudden they say, hey, I want you to become a flower shop owner, and that's your new gimmick. At that time, you can just say, hey, hold on a second here. You know, this is my brand. This is what I'm going to take with me beyond this wrestling career, you know, after you guys don't pay me anymore. So I need to protect, like you said, the intellectual property that is
Right.
that point.
Yeah, but you know,
Agreed.
everyone's got their own values as well. You know, it's going to be more important to some people than to others. Other people might not care and, you know, be like, I don't mind. I'm, you know, here to get it paid. And, you know, and then they have like more of a soldier mentality, which is fine. You
Okay.
know, sometimes I'm a soldier and I'll just, you know, I'll fight for your values instead of mine if
Yeah.
that's if that's my mindset at the time. But so
Yeah.
not just, you know, how long you've been with the company, but in the industry at all,
Mhm.
you know. And now with social media and everything, you can't get away with that as much. I remember it was weird when Steve Kern, who trained generations of wrestlers, all of a sudden was a new character, like an alligator hunter or whatever they were doing with him. And it seems like, you know, like much past that, I don't even think fans would buy it anymore because they're exposed to so much, not only behind the scenes, but other wrestling organizations as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you're playing to a more educated crowd now.
Yeah, very much so. And then Peter, you know, coming to you because you did come off hot off the heels of playing that character for so long with AEW. So you've got, you know, a very fresh story of taking a character and then making something of it. But again, what if they came back to you next week and said, "Hey, we want you to play this, you know, something that you disagree with now." How would you handle that?
I guess it depends on what it is. When I was offered the librarian, I took it with open arms because I was excited for the challenge to try something completely new and
Mm.
completely different than what I was doing. I did kind of think of it as acting,
Mm.
as the sketch comedy mindset, where it's like, let me take this, let me see what I can do with it. Like Katie was saying, let me put my own flair on it. I studied what librarians do. I was going to libraries. I was doing a little bit more reading than I usually ever do. So I was trying to really understand a different mindset that I could apply it to
Yeah.
something unique. I would probably end up doing the same thing if they offered me something that I didn't agree with. But like it also depends on where you're at in the industry. Like Rob was saying,
Mhm.
I could not see a Rob Van Dam being a librarian because he's been
Right.
Rob Van Dam for so long.
Right.
Whereas I'm Peter Avalon on the Indies. This is really my first. It was my first opportunity at a national television experience. So I didn't have, in my opinion, didn't have that legacy like a Van Dam or Paul Roma, where I could kind of just maintain my name. So
Okay. All right. Next question. Good answer, Peter. What, in your opinion, Paul, I'll start with you. What, in your opinion, truly encompasses a great pro wrestling character? For example, costume, catchphrases, backstory in your mind, or maybe there's someone you can
Oh,
cite that
bros.
you can say, hey, this was a great character. Someone that you can cite, Paul.
Wow. Oh boy. Then that you're throwing them at me, right?
Yep.
This is tough. Um, man, oh man, oh man. Steve Austin.
Steve Austin. Okay.
I mean, first one, Rob Van Dam,
Mm.
you know. I don't know, there's
Yeah.
so many for so many different reasons. Macho Man,
Yeah.
just in the way that he carried himself and he spoke.
Mm.
So, there were so many that, well, for the most part, fit their character.
Yeah.
I mean, really fit their character.
Yeah.
And again, I just, The Rock,
Mm.
I've always said this, and I'm I, whether people agree with me or not, um, I think The Rock is such a great performer.
Mhm.
Is he a great wrestler? No, not in the least. But that's not the moneymaker.
Mhm.
Him being, a technical wrestler is not going to bring him money. I
Mhm.
mean, would it help? Sure, it would help. Just his wrestling skills, but it's not going to, put more money, I don't believe, in his pocket.
Mhm.
He built something, is what he did. He built a character, and that's what people wait for. And Austin, though I think he's a good wrestler, I think he built something.
Mhm.
I think Rob is a really good wrestler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he's built something,
Mhm.
and that's what these guys do. Peter's a good wrestler,
Mhm.
and I personally think he has more time, but he has he can elaborate more, like the librarian, right?
Mhm.
He delve into that.
Mhm.
Is there more he can do? Maybe, maybe there's not. Maybe he's hit it, and they pushed everything they could push out of that character.
Mhm.
That's just to name a few.
Mhm. Yeah.
Me, I was boring as hell, so don't worry
Yeah.
about me.
Now you weren't born as hell, Paul, because Power and Glory and the Young Stallions and everything else. No, it
That
was
was fun. That
yeah,
was just fun.
yeah.
But
It was,
yeah,
it was great stuff. All right, Rob and Katie, then down to you. In your opinion, who truly encompassed a great pro wrestling character outside of yourselves?
Oh, you don't have something in mind? You mentioned the Ultimate Warrior earlier, and it stood out in my mind because I was thinking of examples of some wrestlers as artists, expressions that I personally don't understand, but I appreciate their passion for them. But with Ultimate Warrior, I understood it like so much. It was, and at first, so first your character has to be something relatable to the crowd, right? They have to be able to relate. It could, you know, it could be as simple as Hacksaw Jim Duggan saying USA. Well, we're all patriots. We can relate to that. We love our country. We know this is the best country in the world.
Yeah.
Everyone that's never been out of Alabama knows that.
Yeah.
But uh, but then when it gets to other dimensions of your character, one thing about Ultimate Warrior that was so cool was like many of them are comic book characters come to life, and Ultimate Warrior was definitely that. He could have been in any of the comic books I was reading and could have beat any of those characters, all the Marvel heroes and superheroes lined up. I loved Greek mythology, and when I was a kid, I actually thought this was like the spirit of Achilles, like reincarnated in this guy, and I think he believed it too, and it made it so convincing because he spoke with such conviction on everything he did, and from his screaming to his intense, muscles and just everything about him screamed intensity. And so it was hard to not relate. I can't imagine just being like, no, I don't get that guy at all. Because another thing is the storylines. That's very important. It's something, unfortunately, you have very little control over, but sometimes storylines create characters, create their whole careers. Just, and with someone like Warrior, having him just pummel through all the top guys, the giants and everything, made it for a fan to even get behind him more and just understand that rage of power.
Yeah. Katie, what is your opinion on somebody who's a great pro wrestling character who encompassed everything?
I'm trying to think of like who in my mind I would think, because overall, I think if someone can like be put on the spot and then like be able to, like John Cena, like when you told the story where like he was put on the spot and then can come up with all this stuff, easy for the crowd. So I feel like someone that's like quick-witted, or they really either they're quick-witted or they just really live by like believe in their characters so much that
Mhm.
they can just at any time cut a promo for as long as they can.
Yeah. Okay.
Rob Van
The
Dam.
building too.
Rob Van Dam.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's right next to you,
I was
Katie.
thinking that, but I didn't want to say it because it's
He's
obvious.
right next to you. You gotta
Right.
say
And
it.
I like his character, of course, is the best because I could relate to it being 420 friendly. And so, and also his laid back personality. When I saw that, it was just real cool. And also how like even little details in his wrestling is a part of his character. Like when the first time I ever watched Rob, I noticed like he jumped to the top rope and then he was like licked his finger and put it in the air, like to see which way the wind was blowing, which is clearly just to be silly because it's in an inside building. Like how he just like adds his character in the littlest ways, or like in a pin, he would just add his character. So I feel like being able to just put that in and being so committed to it, it makes it good.
Yeah, yeah. And I will add this. I mean, you talk about artists, Rob. You know, I think it's fair to say that each and every one of you are artists in your own right. Just like Katie pointed out, you may not have done the face paint and everything else, but those little things, you know, testing the air and everything else,
Yeah.
that's all artistic right there. You know,
Yeah.
same, same with it all. But Peter, so going back over to you now, in your opinion, who encompassed the ultimate pro wrestling character?
Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle.
Man, I love Kurt Angle. You can have a whole podcast of me just talking about Kurt Angle, man. I love him. I loved watching him. Just everything he did was so funny. And so a lot of the time the stars aligned, like Rob was saying, where you had the writing going well and the stuff given to you was well and the bits were good and stuff like that. But with guys like Kurt, even when the stuff was like maybe not very PC or a little crazy outlandish. Like, what are they doing? Like his feud with Booker T and Charmel. Like, but it was Kurt Angle, so you knew you're going to get that incredible match at the end of it. Like him and Booker was awesome. He would do little things in there. Man, I just love his early development. Like fresh out of the Olympics, barely trained, a legitimate American hero, and he's booed the just out of the building, man. And people drinking milk and everything. Like it was just so good. And he was so good at playing like a nerd. And then he could turn on to be a badass. And just, I think so. He's the perfect, I think, for me when it came to anything character, wrestling, anything like that it was Kurt Angle.
All right. Okay. Cool. Thank you for that one, Peter. So, last question for you all today. Start again with you, Paul. So, tell us the story. Now, you've told me this story again, but we don't know if new audiences will see this of the creation or the creation stage of one of your, or if you've had multiple characters, of your character, Paul. So, maybe tell the story of the creation of Power and Glory because you actually came up with that. So, let's share that.
Wow. Well, how much time do we have?
We got a little bit of more time, Paul. We got
I don't want to bore anybody. So Hercules was not getting to shows very well. I was very punctual, and we met in Chicago. I was in Chicago. He was at the show, and one of the agents asked what he was doing there, and he said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "I'm here." He goes, "No, you're not. You're in New York. You're supposed to be in the Garden against Hulk Hogan, main event." Well, he only read half his ticket, and he ended up going to to the building in Chicago. And then I had said to him, I said, "Hey, listen, man, let's do this. Let's travel together, even though it's taboo, good guy and bad guy. But we'll keep it on the down low, and I think everything will be fine." Well, we had gotten along so well that I came up with Power and Glory. And he was like, "Okay." I said, "Well, I want to go with if you're good with Power and Glory, and we're going to be doing a lot of charity work because that's what Power and Glory stands for. Strength in God. That's what it stands for. Then I'm going to go to the office and I'm going to pitch it to them. And if you're good with it, then, and because you have, a lot of kids, I figure you would be, and he was. He was great with it. And he said, "Yeah, well, I'll do all the charity work you want." I said, "Okay, great." So I pitched it to the office, and the following TV, we walked in and Vince asked, he said, "Hey, Power and Glory, right?" And we said, "Yeah." He said, "What do you want to be?" And we said, "Bad guys." And then Power and Glory took off.
Yeah, there you go. Now that's probably a very rare occasion that happened that you pitched Vince and Vince just agreed with it and said, "Yeah, sure, go for it." I'm
Oh,
sure.
you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I told Ray this, Hercules this. I said, no matter what happens, because once we got started, um, Vince was trying to get us up and running and had a difficult time because people were cheering the bad guy, and we were the bad guys. And no matter who he put us against, they cheered us,
Mhm.
which doesn't make you a bad guy. It makes you, good guys.
Yeah.
And so finally they came up with the angle with the rockers, and that turned us stone cold heels. But I had said to Ray, I said, remember this, I'm going to tell you this right now. No matter what they do, they're never going to stop us
Mhm.
because this is meant to be. We're going to be on a quest
Mhm.
to help kids to go into these hospitals and give these kids hope. The cancer hospitals, which I was a spokesperson at the time for St. Jude.
Yeah.
I mean, I still speak for them,
Mhm.
but I was traveling to the different hospitals, and I got Ray involved, and it was a thing of just absolute beauty and wonder.
Yeah, yeah, that's really is it an encouraging story, a very inspiring story, Paul. I can't share it enough. Whenever we do a
Yeah.
podcast.
Good story.
That's
That's
awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Down to you, Rob and Katie. So tell us a story. Maybe Katie, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Obviously, you've had various, changes to your character, but there must have been a point when you knew this was it and this was the one you were going to stick to in terms of your look, your promos, and everything else. So explain that evolution, that creation stage for you. What were you doing? Were you getting outside help to tweak your character, or was it just happening organic for you, sort of thing?
Well, I was trying to when I first started, like I wanted to be respected, like I said. So I was trying to be like tough, badass. But then after the show, like I was like after my show, like this was back at training school, like I was like letting loose and dancing. And then the fans were like getting their phones out to film me and stuff. And so I was like, okay, so I know this side of me makes people a lot, makes people really happy.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know how to mix that with wrestling and still be taken serious. And then, when I came out to the West Coast and started training more, and also Rob's advice, like I don't have to be so angry. It clicked more, just be myself and I can have fun. And then when I did, I was Rob's manager. It was just even more. I mean, it was like that's when I got seen like by a lot of people, and I got so much positive feedback. Like everyone was like, "Hey, like I love doing impressions of you. Me and my friends were always doing impressions of you." So then I realized like it's stuck, and if people are laughing or they like it or they think it's funny, like whatever, like at least I'm entertaining people. So I knew like that was my calling
Yeah.
too. And yeah, I feel like my magic power is making people happy, and now I'm able to get in touch with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, Katie.
Yeah.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And and then Rob, what was that moment for you when everything came together? Because obviously you had that singlet that was very defines you with it's a kind of like Ultimate Warrior, actually, the way that your imagery is on there, very colorful and neon. What was that ultimate moment like for you when you had that this was Rob Van Dam? What was how did that all come together? How was it happened in ECW before WWE, but how did that incarnation of Rob Van Dam come about?
So actually, it was a wrestling promoter's idea, and this was 91, and it was during that time when I told you I wrestled for anybody under any name, any character. I was still at that stage, and this promoter, Ron Slinker, saw me in Tennessee. He's the first guy to tell me, "Hey, kid, I think you're going to be world champ someday, and I'm going to be running shows in Florida. Keep my number." When I finished up in Tennessee, I just stayed on the phone with him. You ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? I want to go. And I ended up driving down there and helping open up the sportatorium because he wasn't ready. And I helped paint the bleachers, hang a sign above the door. I was up on the roof doing work. I was just ready to go and excited about my career. But at that time I wasn't Rob Van Dam, and it was there at the Sportatorium that Slinker he wanted me to go with that name, and I was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody telling me that I looked like the actor Jean-Claude Van Damme. I was a fan of his,
Mhm.
and also other action movie stars from that time period as well.
Yeah.
But I would imitate all of them, and I would watch what was Chopsaki Theater and imitate that, run up a tree and do a backflip. I was self-trained with all the acrobatics.
Mhm.
Although I did go through martial arts, kickboxing, and all that. Um, by the time in 92, when we're opening the Sportatorium, I'm sorry, 91, he said, I want you to, tell people you're Jean-Claude's brother. I was like, I can't tell people that. You know what I mean? and he really was stuck on it. And I was embarrassed. I mean, I'm not even comfortable being in front of people yet because I'm 20 years old, actually, about to be 21 and super green. I hadn't traveled a lot. I lived with my parents until just a year or two ago. I actually moved from my parents. I still lived with them when I wasn't on the road. So I wasn't a man of the world, so and this guy's telling me to go out there and make a fool of myself. I thought, but he wanted to introduce me to the crowd there in Tampa, and I ended up agreeing to be his cousin, and I kept that for quite a while. I still owe a lot of people an apology for 92, 93, probably.
Yeah.
You're not even a liar at all.
No, but looking back, it did open up some doors that maybe I shouldn't have had open. People treating me different, and looking back at it,
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're in the business, it's all about image.
Yeah.
We're in an industry where it's all about image, and that never stops.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was totally his choice, and he said, "Go out there and sound like you're from Belgium." So I tried. Yeah, I grabbed the microphone and I did my best impression just from watching his movies, and I said, I am very honored to be here in front of you today. All of you people make me feel special. And I was trying, but I was so red faced and embarrassed. And then, he said that he liked it. He was going to stay with it.
Yeah.
So I tried to make myself look like him. I had short blonde hair and I greased it all back, and I took a particular image of him that I had from the movie Lionheart, where they're doing all these backyard fights and they end up in a swimming pool that's drained in this fight, and he's got this black spandex outfit on. And so I got something that looked like that at first, went barefoot, taped my ankles and my wrists up with like black electric tape at first.
Yeah.
Just for the looks, like it was not functional at all. Now I put a cast on each hand of tape, the whole roll, and it's a cast for support. And it was Giant Baba, actually, after I've been wrestling for a while, they wanted me to bring some colors to my outfit. So it was kind of like a natural organic progression. Baba also wanted me to put boots on, and that's after I've been wrestling a year or two over in Japan. And at first I was like, no, I'm too tough. Being barefoot makes me, a tough martial arts guy. And I was so glad that he talked me into it. I never did wear wrestling boots though. Still, just boxing boots and different variations of that. It's all I've worn still to this day. So I would have a lighter sole and not kick people harder than I'm already kicking them. But I never knew. And then after I took that name, it's become part of my identity. And I have people sometimes in a gas station think they're talking to the actor.
Yeah.
And they'll just start, hey man, oh my God, I love your movies. I'm like, well, there's a chance, but I doubt it. Like I have done quite a bit of movies, but it's not too often. Raving about them.
I gotta ask, Rob, did you ever meet Jean-Claude?
Yes, I met him officially only one time in passing at Gold's Gym in Venice Beach. And it was just quick and kind of awkward because I was waiting for him to finish his set so that I could say hi to him. So try not to stand around like an idiot waiting on him. But when he was done, and I just shook his hand, and he just, hey, nice to meet you, and just walked off. And then I found out that my friend behind me had a camera and was like, you know, being a paparazzi, and probably made him feel uncomfortable. He didn't want to get a picture with me because I found that out years ago. And that was, I didn't actually meet him, but we had an experience when I first moved to LA in 2001 at the Shrine Auditorium. We both did an appearance there at the same time. Well, mine was before his, so I was done. He's up on stage, and there's a line of people going up to get his autograph and picture, and he's answering questions while he's going through the line. And I got in line, and everyone got excited, and they pushed me to the front of the line.
Mhm.
And he wasn't excited, you know, and I could tell by his energy. And he said something to his handler, and his handler says, okay, this is the last picture right here, and then we're done, right ahead of me, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it was like, you know, I'm like, I'm just like, okay, I guess whatever. But then the fans are going, no, one more. And they start going RVD. And he's trying to answer someone's question. And the fans there in line and some in the crowd are chanting because they wanted to see the picture. And they're going RVD. And I'm next in line after this one person. And he's trying to talk, but they're cutting, you know, they're interrupting him. He's like, my parents were, I was lucky to, and they're talking, and he's like, he says something to the guy, and the guy said, no, that's it. You know, we're done right now. And he came over and dispersed the line. So I left.
Oh, wow.
But a little bit more to the story. A little while, you know, it's a comic book convention at the Shrine. So I'm going around shopping, whatever. Darth Maul was there, Ray Park, love that guy. And I ended up seeing that he went back up on stage a while later. So I guess I'll just get in line again. I just want to get a picture with him. I did. And then his quote manager, I don't know who the guy was, talked to my manager, and they had a little talk. And then my manager came over and said, he's not going to take a picture with you. They said, why would he do something that would help Rob's career and do nothing for him?
Wow.
Was exactly what they said. But
Damn.
I can't say for sure that came from Jean-Claude's mouth, you know. I mean, of course, at the time, you know, I was like, what? But looking at the bigger picture, you know, my manager said that his manager said that he said that.
Yeah.
Either way, I know he didn't want to have a picture with me, and I only held it against him for like the first 10 years or so. And then I'm
Oh, 10 years.
Gosh, what year? When was that? What year was that, Rob?
This was it was 97 or 98.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was still making some pretty big budget films at that time. Yeah.
Just moved to LA that year. Could have been 96, sometime between 96 and 98. And probably Google it at the Shrine Auditorium. And those are the only two, you know, I've heard from a middle guy, like a guy that I know that also works with him. I've heard, and this was like a couple years ago, I heard that he's a big fan of what I've done with myself or with the business or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Sounded like a compliment. And I'd rather believe that one.
There you go. Yeah, that's a bit of a redemption there.
Yeah.
All right, Peter, then on to you. So tell us a story about the creation stage. Well, we know about the librarian, but you've also been professional Peter Avalon, producer Peter Avalon, and pretty Peter Avalon. So tell us about maybe one of those stages, if there's something memorable that took place, and how you came to define one of those characters.
We were doing the United Wrestling Network with David Marquez. We had Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, or just Championship Wrestling, what it's called now, is the national show. We also had a sister show called Championship Wrestling from Arizona, which was exclusive to Arizona. I was doing Pretty Peter Avalon for so long, since the beginning of my career. Working with Championship Wrestling, I had an idea to do a heel turn, a completely different persona, knew everything, and keep the alliteration going with the nickname. So I went with professional Peter Avalon because it was I was in with the boss of Championship Wrestling, who was the on-screen character, and I was like his lackey. And we had a whole thing in a big turn, so it was nice to be able to do that switch. Producer part came because I was the actual producer from Championship Wrestling from Arizona. So actually being in charge of that show, we put a different spin on it. We made the show a little bit more campy and comedic with a lot of the angles and stuff. With still serious wrestling, just silly, but it was fun to be able to try something new. And I became a bumbling on-screen producer, and I was still doing Pretty Peter Avalon on the indies around the area, but I was now on a tag team of strippers, so I was stripping. So I was playing a Pretty Peter as a stripper, professional Peter as the corporate lackey, and then producer Peter, the bumbling producer of a rinky-dink TV show, Championship Wrestling from Arizona.
Yeah.
So it was fun being able to play all three of those characters, and I got to do some weekends where I was playing all three of them, one on each day. So there was a point where I was playing multiple characters at once within the same universe, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, yeah, but they were all kind of your nature. But you mentioned earlier, you're very playful, very joyful, kind of. So they were all in that vein.
Yes and no. The stripper tag team, we were very highly regarded tag team in SoCal for a little bit. They loved us, they cheered us, so we amped up the fun with it. I tried to channel my Katie Forbes and twerk and all that stuff. I'm not able to do it as well as her, but we were. It was a lot of fun. They put dollar bills in me and his G strings that we wore under our little shorts and everything, and then we go out there and we give a legitimate match. We were in there with like Scorpio Sky, Watts, and everybody doing just real heavy matches, and people could take us seriously at the time. And then to be able to just switch everything that got me over as Pretty Peter Avalon, the silliness, the goofiness, this and that, and do a complete 180 and be serious and mean and just a different dynamic of what I can do with professional Peter. So it's like night and day things. Things that I know people liked, I stopped doing. Things I knew people liked, I took it away and switched it up. They started liking it, I did it a different way that they didn't like it. I was trying to be a full-blown, very intelligent and cunning heel, in contrast to the stripper pretty boy.
Yeah, very good. All right, last question to all you. Quick lightning round. Heel or babyface, which is better, Paul?
Heel.
Rob?
For me, heel.
For you, heel? Katie?
I mean, it depends on what perspective you take. I'm gonna go with babyface.
Babyface. Peter?
I have more fun as a heel, but it's nice to be cheered once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't hurt. All right. As we wrap up this episode, is there anything anybody else wants to say in terms for St. Jude's or any other story they want to share quickly?
Just, we said we're down if you come out this way to Las Vegas and visit any of the children's hospitals. We'd be glad to tag along. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're working on that. I just confirmed with a media outlet this morning that we're going to start running the story on this. So for Victoire for Kids. So I'm hoping that will give us some more traction and we can start setting up some of those events where we can actually go places and do things.
Awesome.
Good luck with it.
Yeah, inspiring the youth is our passion.
Yep.
And kids don't belong in the hospital. So anything to make them smile is the world.
Yep. And that's what I think.
And I just want to go and say this to everybody, that how much it's appreciated, you coming on the show. More importantly, these kids, if you've ever been, and I have so many times, to see them light up when you walk in the room. And back then, obviously, I was on TV 7 days a week. They knew who you were. And just to speak with them and give them hope is the greatest feeling I think you could ever give yourself.
Yeah.
It really is. So
And be part of it.
Yeah.
It is. It's great, and they give everything to these kids. So there's no monies given away to administration fees, or there's none of that. It goes to the families and the kids to help them get through this, crisis, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, exactly. It really truly is a wonderful organization. And our hopes here with these episodes, we do this once a month, is that you will be inspired to, again, like Paul said, cup of coffee, a donation. It doesn't come to us. It goes directly to St. Jude's. You can click on the link in the description of the video and it'll take you straight there to the St. Jude's fundraiser for Victoire for Kids. But for this month, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming on. I want to thank you, Paul. I want to thank you, Rob. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of Victoire for Kids. We hope that we'll see you again next month and be joined by others who will come on for the cause. It's always wonderful to be here with you guys. So audience, thank you for joining us. Until next time, victor what you must victor in your life. I've been Emir. This has been The Gang, and this has been Victoire for Kids. Till next time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Victoire for Kids, and thank you to all our special guests. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and share these videos, and remember the link in the description to the St. Jude Children's Hospital fundraiser. Until next month, victor what you must victor in your life. This has been Victoire.